Hey everyone, welcome back to Easy Speak World with Maya and Ethan, your favorite place where you learn real English through real conversations. Okay, so I have to ask you something, and I want you to think about this honestly. When was the last time you finished a day feeling truly done, like satisfied? Like you looked at your to-do list and thought, yeah, I crushed it today. Actually, nailed it. Because here's the thing. I've been having this weird feeling lately. I end almost every single day completely exhausted, like can't lift my arms tired. But I look back at what I actually accomplished, and it's almost nothing. And I find that so confusing and honestly, a little bit scary. And I know I'm not alone in this because I've talked to so many people who say the same thing. And as always, I've got Ethan here with me, and I feel like this is something he's definitely going to have thoughts about.
Yeah, Maya, honestly, the moment you started describing that, I felt it in my chest a little because that's such a real feeling. And I think it's one of the most frustrating modern experiences people have. You're running all day, your phone is buzzing, you're answering messages, you're in meetings, you're doing things. And then it's 10 o'clock at night and you sit down and think, wait, what did I actually do today?
Exactly. It's like the day just happened to you instead of you happening to the day.
Oh, I love that. The day happened to you. That's the exact feeling.
Right? And I think we all feel like we're busy. Like nobody says, oh, I've got so much free time, I'm bored. Everyone is busy. But busy and productive, those are two completely different things. And I think that difference is something most people have never really sat down and thought about.
That's such a good distinction. Busy just means your time is occupied. Productive means your time is actually moving you somewhere. Those are not the same thing at all.
Community moment. So before we go further, if you relate to this, if you've ever ended a day exhausted but kind of empty, hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow and it means so much to us. And subscribe if you haven't yet. We post every week and we'd love for you to be part of this community. Also, drop a comment below. Are you a person who feels more busy or more productive most days? We genuinely read all of your comments and we love hearing your perspective. Act 1. The busy trap. Okay, so let's actually get into this because I want to understand, why do we do this? Why do we stay busy instead of being productive? Like, is it laziness? Is it bad habits? What is it?
Honestly, I don't think it's laziness at all. If anything, it's almost the opposite. A lot of the people I know who are the least productive are also the hardest working. They're just working on the wrong things or working in the wrong way.
Wait, say more about that. Working on the wrong things. What do you mean?
So there's this concept, I think it was the author Greg McEwen who talked about this, the idea that most people can.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Easy Speak World with Maya and Ethan, your favorite place where you learn real English through real conversations. Okay, so I have to ask you something, and I want you to think about this honestly. When was the last time you finished a day feeling truly done, like satisfied, like you looked at your to-do list and thought, yeah, I crushed it today. Actually, nailed it. Because here's the thing. I've been having this weird feeling lately. I end almost every single day completely exhausted, like can't lift my arms tired. But I look back at what I actually accomplished, and it's almost nothing. And I find that so confusing and honestly, a little bit scary. And I know I'm not alone in this because I've talked to so many people who say the same thing. And as always, I've got Ethan here with me, and I feel like this is something he's definitely going to have thoughts about.
Yeah, Maya, honestly, the moment you started describing that, I felt it in my chest a little because that's such a real feeling. And I think it's one of the most frustrating modern experiences people have. You're running all day, your phone is buzzing, you're answering messages, you're in meetings, you're doing things. And then it's 10 o'clock at night and you sit down and think, wait, what did I actually do today?
Exactly. It's like the day just happened to you instead of you happening to the day.
Oh, I love that. The day happened to you. That's the exact feeling.
Right? And I think we all feel like we're busy. Like nobody says, oh, I've got so much free time, I'm bored. Everyone is busy. But busy and productive, those are two completely different things. And I think that difference is something most people have never really sat down and thought about.
That's such a good distinction. Busy just means your time is occupied. Productive means your time is actually moving you somewhere. Those are not the same thing at all.
Community moment. So before we go further, if you relate to this, if you've ever ended a day exhausted but kind of empty, hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow and it means so much to us. And subscribe if you haven't yet. We post every week and we'd love for you to be part of this community. Also, drop a comment below. Are you a person who feels more busy or more productive most days? We genuinely read all of your comments and we love hearing your perspective. Act 1. The busy trap. Okay, so let's actually get into this because I want to understand, why do we do this? Why do we stay busy instead of being productive? Like, is it laziness? Is it bad habits? What is it?
Honestly, I don't think it's laziness at all. If anything, it's almost the opposite. A lot of the people I know who are the least productive are also the hardest working. They're just working on the wrong things or working in the wrong way.
Wait, say more about that. Working on the wrong things. What do you mean?
So there's this concept, I think it was the author Greg McEwen who talked about this, the idea that most people confuse activity with progress, like they equate movement with achievement. If I'm moving, I must be getting somewhere. But you can be running incredibly fast in a circle.
Huh. Oh no, that is painfully accurate. Running in a very fast, very exhausting circle.
Exactly. And I think part of the reason we fall into this trap is that busyness actually feels virtuous. Like in a lot of cultures, especially work culture, if you're not busy, something is wrong with you. Busy equals successful. Busy equals important.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I first started working, if I had a day where I wasn't rushing around and stressed, I actually felt guilty. Like, wait, why am I not panicking right now? Something must be wrong.
Right, and that's actually a learned response. We've been taught sometimes by schools, sometimes by workplaces, sometimes just by watching how adults around us behaved, that stress and busyness are signals that you're serious, that you care, that you're doing enough.
Which is wild when you say it out loud, because it means we're basically rewarding ourselves for being overwhelmed.
Yeah, and here's a really uncomfortable question. What if some people are staying busy on purpose, even unconsciously, because being busy is easier than being focused?
Okay, that one stung a little.
Yeah, because staying busy gives you an excuse. I didn't work on that big, scary, important project today, but look how much other stuff I did. You get to feel productive without doing the hard thing.
Unconsciously, adverb, doing something without realizing it or being fully aware of it. She was unconsciously avoiding the task that made her anxious. Okay, this is what I love about these conversations, because now I'm sitting here realizing that's me. I do that. When I have something really important to do, I suddenly remember I need to reorganize my entire desk and reply to every email I ignored for a week and make a very detailed color-coded schedule.
Classic. There's actually a name for what you're describing. It's called productive procrastination, where you're doing real tasks, genuinely useful things, but you're using them to avoid the one thing that actually matters most.
Productive procrastination. I am going to use that phrase to justify so much of my life from now on.
Okay, so we've established that being busy isn't the same as being productive, and we've established that we sometimes use busyness to avoid real work. But let's talk about why it's actually hard to be productive, because I don't think it's just about motivation or discipline. I think there's something deeper going on.
Yeah, like I genuinely want to be productive. I want to do the important work. So why is it so hard?
I think a huge part of it is our environment, specifically our phones and the internet. And I know that sounds obvious, but I don't think people understand how deeply this has actually rewired how our brains work.
Tell me more.
So the human brain isn't designed for constant stimulation. It needs periods of deep focus, like really deep, sustained, uninterrupted work to produce anything meaningful. Writing, thinking, creating, problem solving, all of that requires what researchers call deep work. But our modern environment is specifically designed to interrupt that.
The notifications. Ah, the notifications.
The notifications, the pings, the little red dots, they're not accidents. They're designed by very smart people whose entire job is to get your attention. Every time you pick up your phone to check one little thing, it costs you way more than you think.
How much more?
Research suggests it can take up to 23 minutes to fully regain concentration after an interruption. So if you're checking your phone every 15 minutes, which honestly most people are, you never actually reach deep focus, ever. You're working in a permanent state of shallow, distracted thinking.
Sustained, adjective, continuing for a long period without stopping. Deep work requires sustained concentration over long blocks of time. 23 minutes. That's horrifying. So I'm basically spending my entire day never actually thinking properly.
A lot of people are. And the scary thing is, it feels like you're working. Your brain is active. You're reading things, responding to things, moving through tasks. But the quality of thinking is just shallow. You're not doing your best work. You're doing your interrupted work.
Okay, wait. I need to sit with this for a second because I think about my average workday and yeah, I don't think I ever go 23 minutes without looking at something, my phone, a notification, a message. It's just constant.
Most people don't. And the wild thing is that we've started to feel uncomfortable with silence and stillness. Like if you sit down to work and there's no stimulation for a few minutes, it actually feels wrong. Your brain starts reaching for the phone almost automatically.
It's like a reflex at this point, a really inconvenient reflex.
Exactly. And here's the important English phrase for this moment. We've developed a low tolerance for boredom. Tolerance meaning the ability to handle something. Low tolerance means even a small amount of boredom feels uncomfortable. And that's a problem because deep work often starts by feeling boring before it gets interesting.
Oh, that's such a good point. I've noticed that when I actually sit down and focus, like properly focus, phone in another room, the first 10 minutes feel almost painful, like my brain is throwing a little tantrum. This is boring. Give me something, a scroll, a meme, anything.
The brain tantrum, yes. But then what happens after the tantrum?
Honestly, if I push through it, I kind of fall into the work, like it starts to flow, and then suddenly I look up and 2 hours have passed and I've actually done something real.
That's flow state, and it's genuinely one of the most satisfying human experiences. But you can only get there through discomfort first, through the tantrum, which is why most people never reach it. They escape the discomfort too quickly.
Mid-strip check-in. Okay, we're going to keep going, and a little later we'll share some actual practical phrases you can use in English when talking about productivity, time management, and focus. So stay with us because those are coming. But first, Ethan, let's talk about something I find really interesting, which is why do some people seem naturally more productive? Like, is it a personality thing or is it learned? Act 3, the myth of the productive person.
Okay, so I have a slightly controversial take on this.
Oh, good. I love a controversial take. Go ahead.
I think the idea of a naturally productive person is mostly a myth, or at least a very misleading story. Because when we look at someone who seems incredibly productive, we tend to see the output, the results, the finished work, but we don't see their system, and we definitely don't see all the times they failed or got distracted.
That's such a good point. Like you look at a really prolific writer and think, wow, they must just be one of those people who can sit and write for hours. And then you read their interviews and they're like, I write for 20 minutes a day and I hate every second of it.
Yes, exactly. Prolific. That's actually a great vocabulary word for this. It means producing a large amount of work. She's a prolific author. He's a prolific musician. It just means output, output, output. And often the most prolific people aren't doing something magical. They just have consistent systems.
Consistent systems. What does that actually mean in practice? Like, give me an example.
So let's say you want to get better at writing. A common approach is to wait until you feel inspired, until you're in the right mood, until the stars align, and then write for 6 hours in one passionate burst.
That is exactly how I've tried to write things, yes.
And how does that usually work out?
The stars never align, so I write nothing and then panic the night before the deadline.
Right. Versus someone who says, I write for 30 minutes every morning before I check my phone, no exceptions. They don't wait for inspiration, they show up on schedule, and the inspiration eventually follows the habit.
So productivity is basically about becoming someone who doesn't need to be in the mood to work.
Pretty much. There's a phrase for this, you've probably heard it. Don't rely on motivation. Build discipline. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes. Discipline is a habit. It shows up regardless of how you feel.
Okay, but I want want to push back a little here because I feel like sometimes that advice can be taken too far. Like hustle culture takes this idea and turns it into sleep is for the weak, grind 24/7, no rest, no breaks. And that breaks people.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a really important distinction to make. Discipline doesn't mean punishment. It doesn't mean removing all joy and rest from your life. In fact, rest is part of productivity. It's not the opposite of it.
That feels counterintuitive. Say more.
So your brain, like any muscle, gets fatigued. When you've been doing focused, demanding work, it literally needs recovery time. And if you don't give it recovery, the quality of your work drops significantly. You start making mistakes, your creativity goes flat, your thinking becomes shallow. So the person who works 8 intense hours and then fully rests will produce better work than the person who works 12 distracted, half-focused hours.
So more hours doesn't always mean more output.
Almost never, past a certain point. There's a reason most elite performers, athletes, musicians, writers, have surprisingly short actual work sessions, but what they do in those sessions is incredibly focused.
Act 4, practical English phrases. Okay, I love this and I want to keep going, but I promised our listeners some real practical English phrases you can use when talking about productivity, time management, and focus. So let's do that now, because when you're talking about productivity and time management in English, whether in a job interview, at work, with colleagues, or just in conversation, there are certain phrases that native speakers use all the time, and knowing them will make your English sound so much more natural.
Great. Okay, I'll start. One of the most common phrases in work settings is, "I'm stretched thin right now." This means you have too much to do and not enough time or energy to do it all well. It's like being stretched like a rubber band, thin, close to snapping.
Oh, I use this one constantly. Sorry, I'm a bit stretched thin this week. It's polite, it's natural, and it communicates exactly what you mean without going into a long explanation.
Stretched thin, having too many demands on your time or resources. With 3 projects running at once, I'm completely stretched thin.
Oh, yes, and the opposite when someone gives you yet another task and your plate is already overflowing. I'm going to have to push back on this one. Push back means to respectfully resist or disagree. Super useful in professional context.
Push back, to resist, disagree with, or question a request or idea, usually in a professional or polite way. I want to push back on this deadline. I don't think 2 days is realistic.
And here's one that I think is really underused but so valuable. Let me prioritize and get back to you. When someone asks for something and you're not sure if you can do it or should do it, this phrase buys you time and shows professionalism. You're not saying no, you're not saying yes. You're saying, I'm going to think strategically about what matters most, and then I'll respond.
That's gold. Because one of the biggest productivity killers is saying yes to everything, and this phrase is a graceful way to pause before committing.
Prioritize. Verb, to decide the order of importance and deal with the most important things first. We need to prioritize the tasks that have the biggest impact.
Another phrase, I'm going to block out some time for this. Block out means to reserve or protect a section of time in your schedule for a specific purpose. I've blocked out Tuesday morning for deep work, no meetings.
I've started doing this actually, and it genuinely changed things. Like if you don't protect your time, everyone else will fill it. So blocking it out is almost like building a fence around your focus time.
That's a great image. And last one for this section, I'm spinning too many plates. This is an idiom. Imagine a circus performer spinning multiple plates on sticks. If they stop paying attention to any one plate, it falls. So when someone says, I'm spinning too many plates, they mean they're juggling too many responsibilities and something might collapse.
Act 5, the deeper why. Okay, so we've talked about the busy trap, the focus problem, the myth of the naturally productive person, practical phrases, but I want to go somewhere a little deeper now, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I think there's an emotional reason that a lot of people stay busy, and I think it's one that nobody really wants to admit, which is sometimes being busy is how we avoid ourselves. Like if I'm always moving, always doing, always reacting, I never have to sit quietly and ask, is this actually the life I want? Am I going in the right direction? Am I happy?
Okay, wow, yeah, I wasn't expecting us to go there, but that's real.
Right? Because busyness is actually the perfect distraction from the deeper questions. You can fill every waking hour with tasks and never once stop to ask whether those tasks matter, whether you're building something you actually care about.
That reminds me of something. There's a phrase I heard once. We're so busy climbing the ladder that we don't stop to check if it's leaning against the right wall.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one because you could be incredibly efficient, climbing so fast, so disciplined, so focused, and reach the top and realize it's the wrong wall entirely.
Exactly. And this is where productivity gets philosophical. Because ultimately, being productive isn't just about doing more things faster, it's about doing the right things. And the question, what are the right things, is deeply personal. It requires self-knowledge, it requires honesty, which is uncomfortable.
And maybe that's the real reason people avoid slowing down, because slowing down means facing those questions. And those questions can be terrifying. What if I've been working towards something that doesn't actually make me happy? What if I've been so busy impressing other people that I forgot to ask what I actually want?
I think that happens to a lot of people, especially in the 20s and 30s. You're following the path: school, job, promotion, bigger apartment. And one day you stop and realize you never actually chose the path. You just kept walking because everyone else was walking it too.
That's so relatable. It's a little bit painful. Like, productivity advice always focuses on the how to do more, how to focus better, how to build systems. But it rarely asks the why. Why are you doing any of this? What are you actually trying to build?
And I think that's actually the most important productivity question anyone can ask. Before you optimize how you spend your time, figure out why you're spending it at all. What actually matters to you?
Okay, I love that we went deep there, but I also want to make sure people leave with something they can actually do, because sometimes these conversations can feel a little overwhelming. Like, okay, I need to completely reinvent my life and figure out my deepest values, and that's a lot. So, what's one small shift that can make a real difference, like immediately?
I'll give you my favorite. And it's so simple that people sometimes dismiss it. But here it is. At the start of every day, before you look at your phone or email, write down 3 things. Just 3. The 3 most important things you want to accomplish that day. Not 20, not a page-long list, 3.
Just three? That feels almost too small.
That's exactly the point. When you write 20 things, your brain has no hierarchy. Everything feels equally important, so you drift toward the easy ones and avoid the hard ones. But when you write 3, you have to decide what actually matters most. It forces clarity, and clarity is the beginning of real productivity.
And what if you finish those three things? Can you add more?
Absolutely, but here's the key. If you complete your 3 most important tasks, even if you do nothing else that day, you can feel genuinely accomplished. Not fake busy accomplished, actually accomplished.
I love this. What else?
The second one is do your hardest task first. There's a famous piece of advice. Eat the frog first thing in the morning, meaning tackle the thing you've been dreading before you do anything else. Because willpower and focus are at their highest in the morning for most people, and they deplete throughout the day. If you save the hard thing for the afternoon, there's often nothing left in the tank.
Nothing left in the tank. Another great idiom, like a car that's run out of fuel. No energy, no motivation, running on empty.
Exactly. Running on empty. That's the phrase. Doing everything with no reserves left. It's Friday afternoon and I'm completely running on empty. I can't make one more decision today.
Okay, my contribution to the practical tips: learn to say no, or at least learn to say not now, because I used to say yes to everything, and I thought I was being helpful and flexible and a team player, but actually every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. You only have so many hours. Every single one you give away is one you can't use on what you actually care about.
I think that's so true, and there's a really elegant phrase for this. Every yes is a hidden no. Every time you say yes to one thing, you're implicitly saying no to something else. So the question isn't just, can I do this? It's, what am I giving up by doing this?
Every yes is a hidden no. Right. So choose your yeses carefully.
I think that's a beautiful note to start wrapping up on. So let's do a little recap. We talked about the difference between busy and productive and how most people are doing a lot of the former without much of the latter. We talked about how our modern environment is designed to fragment our attention. We talked about productive procrastination, the way we use genuinely useful tasks to avoid the important ones. We talked about flow state and how to actually reach it. And we went deeper into the emotional side of busyness, the way staying busy can be a way of avoiding uncomfortable questions about whether we're living the life we actually want.
And practically, we have our vocabulary: stretch thin, a lot on my plate, spinning too many plates, push back, prioritize, block out time, eat the frog, running on empty. Every yes is a hidden no. These are all phrases you can use right now in your English conversations, and they'll immediately make you sound more natural and fluent.
And the big takeaway from me today is it's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Identify the few things that genuinely move your life forward. Protect time for those things. Do them first, do them focused, and then let the rest be what it is.
And my big takeaway: slow down enough to ask the why, because if you're climbing really fast without checking which wall your ladder is on, that's not productivity. That's just beautiful, exhausting, purposeless speed. And you deserve more than that. You deserve to be moving towards something that actually matters to you.
Well said.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Genuinely, every time you show up and listen, you're practicing your English, sure, but you're also spending time with ideas that can actually change how you live, and we don't take that lightly. If this episode helped you, please share it with one person who might need it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to a small channel like ours.
And leave us a comment. Seriously, we want to hear from you. Are you someone who tends to be more busy than productive? Is there one specific thing that always pulls your focus away? Or is there something that's actually worked for you when it comes to getting things done? Tell us. We read every single one.
Until next time, this has been Easy Speak World with Maya
And Ethan.
Keep going, keep learning, and remember, the goal isn't to be the busiest person in the room. It's to be the most intentional one. See you next week.
Take care, everyone.